Unrivaled could be seeing its final days as Paige, Beckers, and gang could not save the viewership from tanking. What does this mean for the WNBA when they make their return back to TV? We finna talk about it. I told you guys a couple months ago that the views was going down on the channel. Like the WNBA content wasn't looking too good. I was one of the first people to say that about the whole genre itself. Told y'all we was gonna be making big time changes on the channel. Now I say that to say this. Now there has been news to come out about Unrivaled viewership been down nearly 70%.
So this was supposed to be the moment everything clicked. The breakthrough that proved they had something special. Instead, within a week, more than half their audience just vanished. And everyone immediately started looking for someone to blame. But people didn't leave randomly or by accident. They took one look, realized what wasn't there, and bailed the moment they figured out they weren't getting what they came for. Once that hit them, no amount of desperate marketing or positive spin could bring them back.
So the first set of Unrivaled ratings are in, and it's been kind of grim. And by kind of grim, I mean really, really grim. If you are Unrivaled, this is, if these are your ratings every single week on True TV, it's not the biggest disaster in the world, because by the looks of things, these True TV ratings were similar enough to what they were a year ago. Similar enough to what they were a year ago.
More than half the audience didn't slowly drift away or take a temporary break. They straight up evacuated. This was supposed to be their moment as the fresh alternative, the exciting new option everyone would talk about. 7 days later, and people weren't even being polite about leaving. They just disappeared like someone reminded them Netflix exists, and they had better things to stream.
Man, the Caitlin Clark shoot for Gamebridge Sports, man. This is going crazy. Now, we have to get into this, man, because this is honestly a little disheartening. Like, we're a week away from Unrivaled. Nobody seems to care. Honestly, it seemed like nobody gives a rat's ass about Unrivaled this season. There's no anticipation. Absolutely nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about the games. Nobody's talking. The Angel Reese mean that much to Unrivaled. Hey, I just gotta.
Here's what nobody wants to say out loud. People didn't abandon this thing because they hate women's basketball or had some agenda. They showed up, ready to watch, looked around, and immediately spotted what was missing. The one thing they actually wanted to see, once they realized it wasn't there, they grabbed the remote and made their choice. Quick and brutal.
Just to see if it improved from last year, which I suffered through because I just watched it because a lot of people don't know how to watch Unrivaled. So I went on lives. I even aired it. And I don't know how I did it, man, because it was just boring and too many clanks and air balls. Well, the clank and air balls are back again. I think it's exactly like last year, just new faces.
The whole setup seemed perfect on paper. Primetime slot on a major network. The kind of exposure that leagues dream about getting. Instead, the viewership numbers came back looking absolutely catastrophic. Just over 100,000 people watched the opening game. Not niche success, not building an audience, just painful. Especially considering last year's debut pulled almost 280,000 viewers, and people still called that disappointing.
Yes, the numbers for the first games or the first week of Unrivaled is in, and like I told y'all, they're horrible. And I've been telling y'all this is gonna happen because 3-on-3 basketball is boring. It's not entertaining. It's nothing special about it. And all the real fans that claim that, oh, this is the best basketball ever. No, it's not. It's not interesting. Even if you just look in here, the numbers drop from 208,000 to 175,000. And that's just the...
This wasn't some random midweek game nobody promoted. This was launch night. The exact moment when curiosity should be at its peak. When casual fans should be checking it out to see what all the fuss was about. Instead, they checked it out and ran like the building was on fire. The excuses started immediately. Same network, similar numbers, building for the future, different audience, but that logic falls apart when you remember this wasn't buried on some obscure channel at 2 a.m. This was premium placement with maximum visibility, the kind of spot that's supposed to make you look good, not expose your problems. and boy did it expose problems. Once the games actually started, the product couldn't back up all the hype. The hardcore fans stayed around, obviously. They always do. They're the ones breaking down every play online and insisting everything's going according to plan. But here's the issue. If you're already obsessed with women's basketball, you'll watch no matter what. You're not the audience they need to grow. You're the foundation. Everyone else took a quick peek and left.
Big T, they get it. They definitely get it. They really just hating. Like, I hear the same people that say they don't like 3v3 say that they like 1v1. Like, are y'all kidding me, bro? Like, you can't do 3v3, but you can watch 1v1 where there's not even any passing or any type of handoffs or screens or cuts or any type of team-oriented action. Y'all can do that though, right? Fuck out of here. 3v3 is literally an Olympic sport, and you still got these clowns out here finding a way to talk shit. And then y'all want to say, oh, get out your feelings, get out your feel. Like, bro, y'all can't get me in my feelings. Like I said, we appreciate the...
Now, here's where things get really uncomfortable. The ratings didn't just drop across the board, they specifically tanked when one particular person wasn't playing. Games with Paige Bueckers actually got viewers. Games without her, under 100,000 and falling fast. No gray area there. Just a cliff drop. That's not broad appeal. That's total dependence. Paige isn't just a star. She's the only star. The emergency backup keeping the lights on while everything else struggles. Even then, she's not pulling massive numbers. Her games just don't completely crash and burn, which tells you everything you need to know. People can argue about storylines and rivalries all they want. The audience already voted with their remotes. They want Caitlin Clark-level star power. That specific kind of magnetic pull. You can put together legends and big names and slick production, and viewers will still say, looks interesting before switching channels. That's exactly what happened here. And the warning signs were everywhere. Last season started okay but kept losing viewers as it went on. The playoffs somehow drew fewer people than regular season games, which is almost impossible unless people actively don't care how things end. The one-on-one skills competition got better ratings than actual league games. That should have set off alarm bells.
Last year it was... Am I right in saying last year? Was last year at 1.0? No, last year was 0.1. 0.1. So it is a 60... So last year, 0.1 was 280,000, as far as I'm aware. At the same time, 0.4 is that minus 60%. That being said, it's still over 100,000 viewers. But this is on national TV. Like, that is grim. That is genuinely grim. Like, I'm gonna be honest here. Like, that is a not ideal number for Unrivaled, especially.
This is game one, and instead of fixing things, they just doubled down, and somehow people still argue about whether Paige is the main draw. She absolutely is. When she plays, numbers go up. When she doesn't, they crater. That's not an opinion. That's math. Everyone else, background noise. Sometimes interesting background noise, but nothing casual fans feel like they have to watch once the novelty wears off. Losing other recognizable players made it even worse. Angel Reese brings drama. Whether you love her or hate her, she brings unpredictability, something that feels alive. Breanna brought name recognition. Without them, you don't just have a weaker roster, you have no storylines. What's left is a bunch of incredibly talented players stuck in a format that's actually working against them. No defensive structure, no offensive flow, and when the actual basketball can't deliver, fans eventually stop arguing and just disappear. That's the worst possible outcome because silence doesn't drive engagement. For this to work, they needed two things. Short term, they needed Caitlin Clark-level star power, someone who generates attention no matter what format they're playing. Long term, they needed something that looked like actual basketball. 5-on-5. Structure that people recognize. Something familiar enough for casual viewers to get comfortable with.
Rival is I don't want to say it's dead, but hey, let's look at some of this behind the scenes footage they had from Media Day. I know y'all not interested in watching Unrivaled. I can already tell, man. This is crazy. Y'all doing all this, and it like, are people actually interested in watching the games though? I don't think this 3-on-3 thing gonna work like that. I gotta be honest. I'm gonna give it an eye. I'm gonna try to check it out, but I don't know how long y'all gonna be able to keep people around with this 3-on-3 stuff, man. I just gotta keep it real. We gotta keep it real, man. I don't think people really caring about watching it.
Instead, they added more teams without fixing the basic problems, kept a format audiences are rejecting, and somehow brought in developmental players who don't actually play. They just sit there and practice and wait for what exactly nobody seems to know. Some of these players left overseas contracts where they were actually playing for this, real opportunities with meaningful minutes, and now they're expensive bench decorations. That's not strategy. That's confusion. And when confusion meets national TV, people notice right away. This whole thing feels like those wrestling promotions that promised to take down WWE, spent massive money, generated tons of hype, and eventually learned you can't buy cultural relevance. You can throw resources at something for years, but if fans don't connect emotionally, you're stuck. This league isn't dead yet. It'll probably get renewed. Contracts will get adjusted, partnerships tweaked, budgets reconsidered, but trust, once that's gone, it's almost impossible to get back. Because once audience goodwill disappears, everything looks worse. Every mistake seems intentional. Every bad possession feels painful. Every explanation sounds like excuse-making dressed up as optimism. That's exactly where this is heading. Into that dangerous zone where fans don't even bother arguing anymore. They just shrug. And indifference kills leagues.
Remember during the WNBA season? Oh my gosh, all the ratings, the record ratings, blah, 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 blah. But what did we say continuously here on this channel? Yeah, record ratings. Of course you guys are going to have record ratings. Nielsen changed how they count numbers. Of course their ratings are going to be more. It would be kind of embarrassing if they were that much less. Well, Sustainable, Unrivaled, their numbers came out and they are less.
What's almost impressive is how predictable this was. The warning signs weren't subtle. They were screaming. Last season already showed that familiarity breeds contempt, not interest. The longer it went on, the fewer people cared. That's the opposite of building momentum. That's structural collapse. Yet somehow the response was doing the exact same thing again, hoping for different results. Same format, same messaging, same assumption that people just need better education about why they should care. As if basketball requires an instruction manual, it doesn't. It needs stakes that matter. It needs continuity. It needs something that feels important beyond highlight clips and Twitter debates. 3-on-3, no matter how you package it, struggles to provide that over a full season. It's fast, sure. It's chaotic, absolutely. But chaos without consequences gets old quick. It's entertaining for about 5 minutes. When Paige plays, people tolerate the chaos because there's a familiar star holding everything together. Someone they recognize. Someone they want to watch. Someone providing gravity. Without her, the whole thing just floats aimlessly. That's not disrespecting other players. That's acknowledging how star power works. Every league has this dynamic. Every successful league depends on it. Pretending otherwise leads directly to 60% drops, while insisting everything's fine.
Close off avenues where you can make more money. Help me understand, as a stupid man, because I don't get it. I'm annoyed because last night, Unrivaled Basketball, they had a lot of preseason games. They had Paige Beckers playing against Marina Mabry, but I don't know what happened. Why is the promotion for this thing so bad? Like, I don't get it. You go to their YouTube, you don't see any live streams. If you're like me and you're interested in this type of thing and you want to go back and watch the preseason games you missed yesterday, you can't do that. You can't. There's no way. There was no promotion whatsoever. Like, you want this thing to grow and flourish, and yet the only way you see it is from short clips on social media. I want to watch it in its entirety. Like, if you've watched the previous season in a 3-on-3 setting, these women play very hard. They be out there beating the shit out of each other.
That's also why the social media fights completely miss the point. Fans yelling at other fans for not watching doesn't create viewers. It drives them away. Nobody has ever been shamed into becoming a regular viewer, if and it speeds up their exit. You can't guilt people into caring, especially when the product doesn't reward their time investment. Then there's the weird obsession with defending numbers by comparing them to last year while ignoring all context. Last year's numbers worked because there was novelty, because people were genuinely curious, because they were willing to try something new. This year, that curiosity is completely tapped out. Game 1 should be your highest number. The night when even skeptics tune in just to see what changed. Instead, it feels like building the second floor while the first floor is still missing walls. Even the internal decisions raise questions. Developmental players who never see the court, bigger rosters without more playing time. New teams without improving the core experience. Everything feels rushed and weirdly directionless, like decisions made to look ambitious rather than solve actual problems.
Sustainable, they say. Unrivaled is sustainable, they say. They say. Ratings have come out for Unrivaled, and folks, if I was to say fall off a cliff, if I was to say significant drop off, I would be underselling how underperforming day 1 of Unrivaled really was.
Fans can sense that immediately. They might not know the specifics, but they can tell when something feels fundamentally, when a league seems more concerned with appearances than performance. When the conversation around it is louder than the games themselves. That's when interest becomes background noise. The comparisons to failed leagues in other sports aren't unfair either. History is full of leagues that had money, talent, and hype, but they lacked patience and clear strategy. They burned bright, spent big, promised everything, and faded into irrelevance once the novelty wore off. The scary part here is how fast that novelty disappeared. 1 season in, people were already checking out. 2 seasons in, they're actively choosing not to watch. That's not gradual decline. That's a crisis. What works is rivalries that develop naturally over time. Not constant changes, just to be different. Different only matters when it's better. Right now, this is different and worse. Faster but sloppier, flashier but emptier. That's a killer combination when you're asking people to invest time week after week. The ironic part is, the solution isn't complicated. The blueprint is right there. Move toward real basketball. Drop the gimmicks. Let stars be stars in formats people already understand. Build stories naturally instead of manufacturing them through hype cycles.
I'm going to tell y'all why this is bad. Because last year, it wasn't like they was cracking hella views to begin with. They wasn't even getting hella views at all last year. Now, this year, their views is down by nearly 70%. This is very bad. Now, towards the decline of the WNBA season, towards the end of the season, we start seeing the WNBA kind of fudge the numbers, taking into account group party watch party viewerships, counting those into, effect like bars and stuff like that.
But that means admitting the current approach isn't working. And that's the hardest thing to do, because admitting that means accepting that these ratings aren't bad luck. They're earned. They reflect exactly how audiences feel. Initially curious, quickly disappointed, completely gone once the illusion breaks. That's why the 60% drop matters so much. Not because of the number itself, but because of what it is. Mass realization. Collective understanding that this is all there is. And once that moment happens, it's incredibly hard to undo. You can tweak the marketing, shuffle the schedule, lean harder on your one star who's keeping things alive. But unless the core experience changes dramatically, you're capped. The audience has already told you what they want through their absence. Ignore that long enough, and eventually the silence becomes permanent.